Namuratiya Bhaktari Radham Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Jan Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Shlokada Shatta Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Ace Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jan Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Shlokada Shatta Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Okay, reading from Srila Prabhupada Lila Mrita. This is chapter entitled The Remote Corner of the World. See here. The devotees' love for Prabhupada was not a vague sentiment. He was engaging them in Krishna's service, and they were directly experiencing the transcendental results. Only a devotee, however, could understand Srila Prabhupada's personality or the depth of his disciples' attraction for him, or the debt they owed him. No wonder onlookers at the Detroit airport had not understood the apparently delirious devotees in their blissful reception of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. I'll just stand there because it's a whole new section coming up, so I'll leave it for the next person. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th Canto, Chapter 14. Today we're doing text number 45. Yagyaya Dhamma Pataye Vitinai Punaya Yogaya Sankhya Shirase Prakritishvaraya Narayanaya Haraye Nama Iti It Yudarang Pasyan Mrigatvam Apiya Samuda Jahada Yagyaya Dhamma Pataye Vitinai Punaya Yogaya Sankhya Shirase Prakritishvaraya Narayanaya Haraye Nama Ityudaryam Hasyan Mrigatvam Apiya Samuda Jahara Yagya Yadama Pataye Vidinai Punaya Yoga Yasankhya Shirase Prakritishvaraya Narayanaya Haraye Nama Ityudaram Asyan Mrigatvam Apiya Samuda Jahara. Word for word, Yagyaya, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who enjoys the results of all great sacrifices. Dharma Pataye, unto the master or propounder of religious. What's going on here? Sorry. Unto the master or propounder of religious principles. Vidi Naipunaya, who gives the devotee the intelligence to follow the regulative principles expertly. Yogaya, personification of mystic yoga. Sankhya Shirase, who taught the Sankhya philosophy, or who actually gives knowledge of Sankhya to the people of the world. Prakriti Ishvaraya, the supreme controller of this cosmic manifestation. Narayanaya, the resting place of the innumerable living entities. Nara means the living entities, and Ayana means the shelter. Haraye, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Hari. Nama, respectful obeisances. Ti, thus, Udara, very loudly. Hasyam, smiling. Mriga Twam Api, although in the body of a deer. Ya, who, Samuda Jahara, chanted. Translation, even though in the body of a deer, Maharaj Bharat did not forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, when he was giving up the body of a deer, he loudly uttered the following prayer. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is sacrifice personified. He gives the results of ritualistic activity. He is the protector of religious systems, the personification of mystic yoga, the source of all knowledge, the controller of the entire creation, and the supersoul of every living entity. He is beautiful and attractive. I'm quitting this body, offering obeisances unto him, and hoping that I may perpetually engage in his transcendental loving service. Uttering this, Maharaj Bharat left his body. Purport. The entire Vedas are meant for the understanding of karma, jnana, and yoga, fruitive activity, speculative knowledge, and mystic yoga. Whatever way of spiritual realization we accept, the ultimate goal is Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The living entities are eternally connected with him via devotional service. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Ante Narayana Smritihi, the perfection of life is to remember Narayana at the time of death. Although Bharat Maharaj had to accept the body of a deer, he could remember Narayana at the time of death. Consequently, he took birth as a perfect devotee in a Brahmana family. This confirms the statement of Bhagavad Gita 6:41, Shuchinang Shrimatangehe Yoga Prashto Vijayate. One who falls from the path of self-realization takes birth in a family of Brahmanas or wealthy aristocrats. Although Maharaj Bharat appeared in the royal family, he became neglectful and took birth as a deer. Because he was very cautious within his deer body, he took birth in a Brahmana family as Jada Bharat. During this lifetime, he remained perfectly Krishna conscious and preached the gospel of Krishna consciousness directly, beginning with his instructions to Maharaj Rahugana. In this regard, the word Yogaya is very significant. The purpose of Ashtanga Yoga, as stated by Madhvacharya, is to link or connect with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The goal is not to display some material perfection. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Granjana Shalakaya Chakshramilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakti Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation again. Even though in the body of a deer, Maharaj Bharat did not forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, when he was giving up the body of a deer, he loudly uttered the following prayer. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is sacrifice personified. He gives the results of ritualistic activity. He is the protector of religious systems, the personification of mystic yoga, the source of all knowledge, the controller of the entire creation, and the supersoul in every living entity. He is beautiful and attractive. I am quitting this body, offering obeisances unto him, and hoping that I may perpetually engage in his transcendental loving service. Uttering this, Maharaj Bharat left his body. We may also pray, like Bharat Maharaj, that we may leave our body in a similar way. That would be nice. So this is the perfection of life, to leave one's body remembering Krishna. Krishna explains this in the Bhagavad Gita. In chapter 8, text number 5, he says that one who at the end of his life quits his body, remembering me alone, at once attains my nature. Of this there is no doubt. And in the next verse, he explains the general principle that whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. So this is basically a perfect example of this whole section dealing with Bharat Maharaj and Jada Bharat and his birth as a deer, showing these principles. So just thinking of other devotees who left their body in the correct consciousness. And of course, straight away in the first canto, the 9th chapter, we get the example of Bhishma Dev and how he left his body. Even though he had an arrow in every single inch of his body, he's lying on a bed of arrows and ordinarily would be considered to be in extreme agony and pain, but because he was a transcendental soul, the Mahabhagavat, not just that, but one of the Mahajans, 12 Mahajans, and he had the benediction, he could leave his body when he wanted. He wasn't an ordinary person. But the beautiful thing about the way he left his body, other than the fact that he could choose what time he left his body, was that he sat there waiting, and then the Pandavas were surrounding him. And of course, also Lord Krishna came and was standing in front of him. So he left his body surrounded by the purest of the pure devotees, and not only that, but with the Supreme Lord himself standing in front of him. I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. Of course, one could say that anyone who leaves their body thinking of Krishna, it's no different because Krishna is absolute. He's the same as his name, his pastimes, his activities. So there's no difference. But, you know, you would be thinking, yeah, if Krishna was literally standing in front of me, that would be very nice. So also we hear about Vritrasura. He leaves his body thinking of Krishna. He was practically already a perfect devotee before his birth as Vritrasura, as Chitraketu Maharaj. But he was cursed to become a demon, but that didn't matter. Even though he was in the body of a demon, he was a perfect devotee. And so when he was leaving his body, he was in samadhi. He thought he'd killed Indra, he ate him. Indra was in his belly, so he thought, okay, won the battle, game over. I'll just sit here in meditation thinking of the Lord now, I've got nothing else to do. So then Indra came out of his belly and took the opportunity to cut off his head with his thunderbolt. And it took a whole year. So Vritrasura's samadhi was obviously pretty good because he was in samadhi for a whole year thinking of Krishna. And of course, there's Haridas Thakur as well. His leaving of his body was very similar to Bhishma Dev. He was also surrounded by devotees, and the Supreme Lord was also standing in front of him, except in this case it was Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he also had a perfect end to his life. And of course, the author of these books we're reading, not Vyasadeva, but the translator and personality who wrote the purports, Srila Prabhupada, he also left his body in a very glorious way, surrounded by his devotees, loudly chanting the holy names. Not only that, he was also in Vrindavan. Not only that, he was in the Krishna Balaram Mandir, so he also had a very glorious departure. And one of his disciples, Gaur Govinda Maharaj, uh, he also had a very interesting departure to his life. Uh, he left his body while speaking Krishna Katha. It was pretty far out. He left his body on the battlefield, as many of these personalities did, um, just like Prabhupada. But anyway, so these personalities are all showing us how we should leave the body. Basically, remembering Krishna, some way, shape, or form, whether it's hearing his holy name, chanting his holy name, speaking Krishna Katha, dictating purports, Bhishma Dev instructing Yudhishthira Maharaj, all these different things, different situations. But the goal is to remember Krishna. So, moving on to the purports. So, Prabhupada says that the ultimate goal is Narayan. And the yoga ladder has the different rungs, karma, jnana, ashtanga, and ultimately they all lead to bhakti. So this is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, in chapter 6, right at the end, Krishna says that greater than the empiricist, the fruitive worker, the ascetic is the yogi, and of all the yogis, the best is the one who's worshipping me in transcendental loving service. And there's many sections in the Bhagavatam that expand upon this point. Even in the first canto, second chapter, right at the end of that chapter, the second chapter, which is probably one of the most important chapters in the Bhagavatam, there's probably, I think, like 17 shlokas in the second chapter of the first canto of the Bhagavatam in the Srila Prabhupada shloka book. Right at the end, there's a shloka which basically says Vasudeva is this, Vasudeva is that, Vasudeva is this and that. He's the goal of all fruitive activity. He's the ultimate purpose of performing sacrifices. He's the destination of all knowledge, like that. Basically saying there's nothing outside of Vasudeva. So that's the ultimate goal. This is the whole purpose of the Krishna consciousness movement, is to remember Krishna, the end. Prabhupada next goes on in the purport to say that the living entities are connected via devotional service. So it's just thinking about, practically speaking, in our real life, we have relationships, and our relationships remain active through activity. Literally, the word activity has got the word active in it. So if there's no activity, then how is something active? So with Krishna, if there's no activity in that relationship, where is it? It's not there. And that's exactly why we have the situation we have. We have a whole bunch of sleeping souls in this material world because there is no activity in relationship to Krishna. There may be other activity going on for fruitive activity, but no Krishna activity, no bhakti. So therefore they're asleep. Even though they seem to be moving around, seem to be awake and doing things, they're actually asleep. Jeev Jago, wake up sleeping souls, as Lord Chaitanya said. This is, as Prabhupada explained, that one time he was at the airport, and I can't remember who he was with, whether it was a bunch of devotees or just his personal servant, but he said to whoever it was who was with him that basically, you know, there's all these people moving around in this airport, but you may be thinking that they're alive and moving around, but that may be what you see. But what do I see? I see dead bodies moving around. So in other words, the bodies are moving, there's activity, but because there's no Krishna consciousness, they're practically dead. And that's our situation in this material world. There may seemingly be activity, but just because there's physical movement doesn't mean that there is actual real life. For example, I could get a boulder and push it down a hill. It's moving. It's got activity, but it's dead. So similarly, that's basically the situation in this material world. Things are moving around, people are doing stuff, but because they're not connected with Krishna, they're dead. So our perfection of life is also ends with death, but not to remain dead now, but to be alive now, so that when we do die, we attain our real life, the perfection of life, to remember Krishna. And basically, everything we do in our life is preparing for this moment. So there's a book by His Holiness Guru Raj Swami, which is called Life's Final Exam, and it's all about this point. So we can do so many things in our life, and of course, everything that we do in our life is important, but it's just like um, the crucial moment of a match. Like for example, I'm just trying to think of the modern sports equivalent today. Things are changing, but basically it's equal. You're at the final moments of the match, and whoever scores next will win the game. It's like that. That's what death is like. So if you don't do it properly, then even though you may have had a good match up to that point, if you're not attentive right at the final crucial moment, then you may miss out. So everything we do now is preparation, and it's important. At the same time, the final moment of life is, one could say, the most important. So there's so many positive and negative examples of this, and this whole pastime of Bharat Maharaj is a perfect example of both the positive and negative examples. So in his previous birth as Bharat Maharaj, he showed the incorrect example by remembering a deer at the end of his life. And now in this life, as a deer, he's showing the correct example by remembering the Lord. So he's showing both positive and negative examples. Now, the thing that really, I guess, strikes a lot of us is, and for me, myself, I was just thinking about this more last night, that final moment of death is so important. It's so important that we see that someone, Bharat Maharaj, he was on the platform of Bhav. It's the step before praying. It's like you can't get any closer to back to Godhead. And still, even though he was on such a high platform, he took birth as an animal. Now that seems quite outrageous, because Prabhupada said that if we meet someone on the street and we try to give them a book about Krishna, and they look at the book and they think, oh, that looks nice, but no, not today, thank you. Prabhupada said that person gets a human birth. So they may go back home, chuck some meat on the stove, cook it up, devour it, have some illicit sex with their partner in the evening, have a few beers, like that, perform all sorts of nonsense. But apparently now they're getting a human birth just because they appreciated that book. Yet here we have Bharat Maharaj taking an animal birth. What the heck, isn't it? Doesn't that seem just a little bit ridiculous? So, of course, this is Krishna's special mercy. So, Krishna's mercy, we need to understand it in context, because sometimes things may happen in our life and maybe think, why is this happening to me? It seems unfair. But Krishna, we have to understand, is a person, and he's ultimately a loving parent. So he may punish us in such a way that we may think it's unfair, but just like a little kid thinks that the parents are being unfair by not allowing them to play all day and making them go to school, actually it's for our benefit. So Krishna, he did something quite remarkable here. He kind of like played around with the principles that are mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. So in the Bhagavad Gita, as Prabhupada quotes in the purport, one who's practiced yoga, they get their birth in a Brahmin family or a wealthy aristocratic family like that, or if after practice for a long time in a family of transcendentalists. But here, Bharat Maharaj, even though on Bhav, goes and takes birth as a deer. But the amazing thing is, I was thinking about this a bit more, from one point of view, you could look at this as a great benediction from two angles. One, ordinarily, he should have had to go to the heavenly planets first and enjoyed for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. So that would have slowed down the whole going back to Godhead thing. But instead, he just took a short birth as a deer. And you know, how long does a deer live? Maybe like 12 years or something, maybe 20, I don't know, but pretty short life. And then finish that life and then boom, back into a Brahmin family and get back on with the program. Whereas if you went to heaven, it would have been, you know, like 10,000, 100,000 years he would have had to wait. So actually, from that point of view, it's Krishna's great mercy. And of course, the other angle is that he remembered what he did. Krishna gave him specific memories so that he could remember exactly what he did wrong. So in other words, giving him a little slap, like a 20-year slap, you could look at it that way. It's like, boom, here you go. You got a dear body and you can remember what you did wrong. So you got a 20-year slap. You could look at it like that rather than 100,000 years of enjoyment. But that enjoyment is just material enjoyment. It's not real enjoyment. So Krishna's speeding things up. So from that angle, actually, this whole pastime shows how Krishna is so merciful. And it's also explained that a similar thing happened with Gajendra and Vritrasura. It's explained that King Indradyumna, if that's his name, in his previous birth, and then his next birth he was Gajendra. It's explained that if he didn't get that curse by Agastya Rishi, I can't remember who the sage was who cursed him, to take birth as an elephant, then he would have had to spend a lot longer going back to Godhead. So by getting cursed and taking birth as an elephant, and then having the Lord come and save him, he went back to Godhead quicker. And same with Vritrasura. He was traveling around as Chitraketu Maharaj, traveling around the universe, had a demigod body, so he was going to live for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. But instead, get a curse, become a demon, fight with Indra, Indra chops off your head, you go back to Godhead. So again, the whole process was sped up. So if we understand the bigger picture, not just this life, that's a big pill for me to swallow saying that. As I go through day to day my life, you know, this drama, that drama, and thinking, gosh, what's going on, you know? But Krishna knows the bigger picture. We just have to have a little faith that he's orchestrating things perfectly for us. And those who have been in the movement for a long time, who've practiced Krishna consciousness for many years, they can look back and they can see, yes, now I see why this happened in my life. I can understand why things played out the way they did. But at the time that it was happening to me, I couldn't. So this is also very applicable for us. Whatever situation we're currently in, whatever drama we're facing, whatever obstacle in devotional service we're currently encountering, right now it may be a real pain in the neck and it may be just really agitating and this and that. But ultimately, it's for our purification and our progress in devotional service if we take it in the right light. That's the key factor. Just like if you're given a test, if you've studied beforehand, then you can pass. But if you haven't, then it may be very difficult to pass. So if we equip ourselves with the knowledge that Srila Prabhupada has given us in his books, with the association of devotees who can help guide us on the path, then we can overcome whatever situation we're currently facing and make progress in devotional service. So just to conclude, Krishna gave Maharaj Bharat a very merciful package because he became neglectful. He just gave him a mild slap. Because he was on the platform above, Krishna's like, he's practically already back here. So I'll just give him a wake-up call so he can finish up his business and come back. So that's exactly what happened. And the final thing I wanted to mention was how in his birth as Jada Bharat, Bharat Maharaj, he showed that now he was ready to show the perfect example. So what he did is he was so careful about his own bhakti, that's why he was called Jada, as if he was dumb and deaf. He kept his own bhakti intact no matter what this time. And there's a quote from Srila Prabhupada that I'd like to share. This is from January 9th, 1973. This is a letter to Rameshwara. So the quote goes like this: being engaged as devotees of Krishna in the practical work of spreading Krishna consciousness is already the highest realization. That's all right. That is our real mission, to deliver the world by preaching Krishna's message to others. But an even higher realization, the highest realization, is to save oneself. So this is quite a famous letter because, as we always hear, the most highest service is to save others. But Prabhupada's emphasizing a point here. That is true, but you can't save others unless you yourself are saved. You can't, if you try to save others and fall down in the process, that's not so ideal. So we should keep ourselves on track. So this is exactly what Jada Bharat did in his final birth, is that he didn't fall down no matter what this time. He was so careful. He's like, this life, I'm not screwing it up. I'm like, but even though he did that, he still engaged in outreach. But he was just more careful about how he did it this time, rather than becoming attached to who he may be outreaching to and falling down. He maintained his own Krishna consciousness, but he still managed to deliver Rahugana. And he saw that this is a person who can do a lot of preaching himself. If I make the king Krishna conscious, then job done. He'll help make the whole kingdom Krishna conscious. So that's the final point. So to conclude, Prabhupada finishes his purports with the same point that he made in the very first line of the purport, which is basically the ultimate goal is Krishna, the highest realization of all these different paths, whether it's Ashtanga, Jnana, Karma, ultimately it's to come to Krishna consciousness. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, just surrender unto me, give up all that other stuff. That's the goal of life, just to surrender to me. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Stop there. Does anyone have any questions, comments, or reflections? No? Okay.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Very nice class, very concisely explained, very nice things. And the ultimate point of that what Jada Bharat has faced it, he has learned from his previous life, but didn't forget what he has to do with this life. But at the same time, he did not forget the preaching to save the others also who are rotting in this material world. So it is a very important thing that we remember the Lord at the we remember the Lord at the final moment of our leaving this body. For that, we have to prepare ourselves, because whatever we do in this material life, ultimately our taste is that we have remembered the Lord at the time of leaving this body. But at the same time, it is very important, as Prabhupada is told, and our ISKCON is trying to preach, is that we not only we save myself, but save others as well, who are rotting in this material world, sometimes with some knowledge and sometimes without any knowledge. So it is a great responsibility on those who has taken up the path of Krishna consciousness to save themselves, of course, first, and then save the others, because that is the way only. In this present civilization, people are so much afflicted with material contamination that some people have no idea that there is any other life. Like, the existence of God is now being questioned sometimes. So it is very important at this crucial time we protect ourselves by remembering the Lord at every moment and in all our activities. If we remember, as you have told about the verse number 8.5 and 6 and of Bhagavad Gita, and at the same time in 7 it says, that's why it says that Tashmat Sarveshu Kalishu Mamunusmara Yuddhasya, that therefore always remember me and do your activities. So we have not discard our activities. Whatever we do, we should do, but remember the Lord, and that is the way we can be sure that we can remember the Lord at the final moment. But at the same time, we should not be Vajananandis, but we should be Goshthanandis. We have to save others as well. That is our responsibility as Prabhupada is given. And that is one of the important message of Prabhupada is also, because preaching is the essence. Ultimately, we have to preach to the people, not only to save ourselves, but to save others as well. And you have very nicely pointed out all these things very nicely. Thank you, Prabhu, for that. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for the nice summary, and thanks for adding chapter 8, text 7, Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu. That's a perfect example of how we can remember Krishna if we just do that. And of course, that applies to whatever activity we're doing, outreach or not. So that's a very nice, if we can just live our life by that verse, it's perfection. All right, should we finish there? Oh, there's something on the chat. Oh, it's just some kind words. All right, Krantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki.
Jai.
Jai.
Ki.
Jai.
Jai.
Vancha
Kalpatarubhyascha
Vaishnaveभ्यो नमो अनंत कोटि वैष्णववृंद की जय
शिला प्रभुपाद की
जय
जय Gadai Gauranga Prabhu ki jai.
जय
Dev Hari Hari Bol. All graced assembled devotees.
हरे कृष्ण
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण